We are live on the information superhighway. Welcome to a new episode of Nothing But a Good podcast. A little bit of a subdued podcast, of course. We are here on the Wednesday, July 23rd, for a new episode, new recording of Nothing But a Good podcast, Tezz. And I think when we decided to do this podcast, we never thought we'd do stuff time sensitive, really. But I think this episode has to be all time sensitive for something that happened in the world of rock, not 24 hours ago-ish, I guess, 25 hours ago. Rock and metal lost one of the masters, the gods of rock and metal, sadly passed away last night, and we thought we'd do an episode about it. So yeah, not good news, Tezz.
No, it was I mean, it's one of those things where, as our idols from the world of music or film or whatnot get older, it's kind of just a natural part of the world, but it doesn't really make it any less painful when you hear it. And yeah, hearing the news yesterday, early evening, of Ozzy Osbourne's passing at the age of 76, I think it really just sort of took the wind out of everyone's sails. And it really, I mean, it was quite an experience watching the stream for Back to the Beginning, but it very much, it's one of those things where that felt like a goodbye in a world where a lot of musicians have farewells and goodbyes, but they're not really goodbyes. They're going to come back in a couple of years' time. But this one definitely felt like this is the last time we're probably going to see Ozzy Osbourne on stage. This is the last time we're ever going to see Black Sabbath together. And yeah, 3 weeks later,
18
such
days
sad
ago.
news.
When
Yeah,
18 days. It's wild. I think when that show was announced, everyone was saying, "Oh, will he even make it on stage?" And I saw a video pop up online a couple of days before the show. Like, you could hear him doing sound check, and all the talk was, "Will he sing? Will he even sing live? What will he do?" Because I think he did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a few years ago and just sang the tiniest bit, and everyone else sang for him. So, to see him get up and do, the Ozzy set and then the Black Sabbath set, like we said, when, we spoke about it because we recorded the day after, we recorded one of the episodes, and we were saying, like, it was quite emotional when he did Mama, I'm Coming Home. And, it's weird because, like, our heroes are our heroes for a reason. It sounds weird, like, and all the trials and tribulations we had to go through to even get their music and listen to it, put these guys up there for us. And we've got into the chats about streams and all these things make these other people our heroes, but there's like icons and huge stars, and when they go, it's a sad day for people who just love music. And it's wild, even if you're not the biggest fan of some of these people. I'm first of all, I'm not the biggest Ozzy fan, and I'm not the biggest Black Sabbath fan, but I, like all rock and metal fans, we have our favorite bands, and for me, Ozzy and Black Sabbath are not my favorite bands in rock and metal, but as someone who's gone through this music for, it defines my life, and like we've said, Tezz, it's like how we wear our hair and all this sort of stuff. It's such a big deal for us when someone who is one of these gods of rock just suddenly goes. And when we saw him 18 days ago, I mean, I didn't think he would be gone. It was like a little bit like a funeral as such, before he died. I hate to say that, but it kind of was, and he was there for it. It's strange, man. It's a shame, and he's a real legend, and it's a sad reminder that these rock icons and a lot of the people you saw at that gig and all these other bands, a lot of them have sort of died the last few years, and Bowie and Lemmy and loads of people have sadly gone, and they do form a lot of our lives, and I think it's important to pay respects to these dudes, as much as we joke about 100%. Them, and they're going out to get a load of money from another tour and all this stuff, they also love performing music, because none of these people got into music to become millionaires. They just got into music because they love music, and
I think that was one of the things that was that started kind of getting me emotional. There's a particular thing that he said. I think it might have been before "Mama, I'm Coming Home," but the first thing that started, tugging on my heartstrings during the Ozzy set was you could just see he wanted to be stood up there holding the microphone, head banging, but his body just at that stage just
Yeah.
it wasn't possible, and that was painful to see because you just think, oh man, that must be so difficult. And he even said, like, I've been led up for the last 6 years. You don't know how it feels, man. Yeah, something along those lines, and
Yeah.
that really sort of tugged at the heartstrings. But like, yeah, I mean, for me, I'd sort of forgotten how much of a fan of a lot of Aussie stuff that I was, because I'd sort of fallen into that trap in the last few years of just listening to the same old bands and albums that I listen to. Like everyone kind of has their core artists that
Yeah,
they'll
of
go
course,
to,
yeah.
particular albums and whatnot. But yeah, as they were going through the sets, all of the various bands, it was when they were playing particular Sabbath covers or particular Aussie songs, especially the supergroups, that just really just lit a fire in me because they reminded me of how much I loved some of these songs. I mean, I'm not the biggest Sabbath fan, but I love a lot of Ozzy's solo career, and as a guitarist, you just you sometimes forget about the impact that his music has had. I mean, when people are learning guitar, 9 times out of 10, one of the first songs they'll learn will be Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water.
Yeah.
But I'd hazard a guess that probably right around that time, they're maybe also learning Paranoid by Black Sabbath,
Yeah, yeah.
because those are the influential songs, which are also not too difficult for a new guitarist to start playing. And just so many of the songs like Bark at the Moon, Ultimate Sin, Perry Mason, Children of the Grave. There's just it was one of those things where you remember how much of a stellar career this guy had, and
And it's
I
gone on
just
so long. I mean,
yeah,
it's so long. My dad is 67, so 10 years younger than Ozzy. I think 10, 11 years younger than Ozzy was when he
yeah,
passed. So my dad was around in 70 when Paranoid came out, and of course he's then like really aware of music. You get it on the radio and all that sort of stuff. And I phoned him up before we were going to record, and he said that he heard Paranoid, and Black Sabbath was the third album he ever bought. And then so it's like for my dad, it's a big deal because, and like in many ways, how I just think for someone like Ozzy, how he transcends time. My dad, what's my dad? 67. Now just turned 67. So what's 1970? That is 55 years ago.
yeah.
55 years
55
ago.
years ago,
So
yeah.
what was my dad then? So if he's 67 now, he was 12. Is that right?
Yeah.
Bloody hell! Like my dad was 12. When so that's wild that my dad got that. So I think it would have been 70, maybe a year later. I don't know. However, he got it back then, buying a record from the local shops and things like that. And it's wild that from then all the way through to me driving in the car with my dad when I was born. I wasn't driving, my dad was. But my dad was driving me in the car, and I remember him playing "You Can't Kill Rock and Roll," which is such a wicked song. At the time, I didn't realize it's got like a 12 string at the start. And it's funny how music is so connects with you, because when my dad said, that's one of my favorite songs, and I know that's one of my Aussie favorite songs. I remember before the concert came up, and I was like, it gets you in the gut, doesn't it? 'Cause you hear that's one of your dad's favorite songs. It's one of my favorite songs, and it's probably one of my favorite songs because of my dad. But that's how music like connects us all. So it's very like deep, isn't it? I think sometimes some of this stuff, even if you're not the biggest fan of these artists, you know what I mean? Like like I've just said, and how Ozzy transcended all this from 1970 to like 2025. If you said to him back then that you'd be doing this concert in front of 40,000 people, raising millions for charity as well.
Yeah.
All this silly stuff that all the the mainstream press spoke about. I mean, when it came up, it pops up, doesn't it? And before we started recording, you said you saw some stuff with Gene Simmons being interviewed. I saw Sky News last night, and they've got some political correspondent talking with someone who knows nothing about Ozzy Osbourne. Just nonsense, talk about the Osbournes. And, you know, it's been one of his biggest hits was when he sang with Kelly Osbourne, Changes. It's like, it's not. It's not. You know, I know they need to connect it to, like, you know, the mainstream, I guess, and people will remember that. But, you know, it just goes to show that someone like that can really transcend not just my dad being a 12-year-old buying that record to 55 years later. It's just wild, man. It's very powerful stuff, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the fact, like, for any artist to be relevant and, you know, and revered and still making new music across that time, like, you'll find sometimes that bands will reach a certain point of their popularity and fame where, you know, the albums start coming out later and later, and sometimes it's just a case of just, you know, play the hits and whatnot. But with Ozzy, he was still producing new albums as close as a few years ago. And I think he already had another album in the works. He'd mentioned after the concert that they've already got some stuff recorded, which would just be, you know, obviously incredible to hear. But I mean, he was such an innovator. I mean, obviously my background is guitar, and I know obviously Ozzy's a vocalist, but he understood the importance of guitar in music, and, you know, going from Tony Iommi in Black Sabbath creating these iconic riffs, creating heavy metal, to then, you know, Randy Rhoads, who kind of revolutionized lead guitar himself, Jake E. Lee, Zakk Wylde, who, you know, is just a huge guitarist in the world now. He's worked with Steve Vai, Gus G. He's worked with just, you know, all sorts of incredible musicians, and just across this career has just kept creating memorable songs, and that doesn't happen that often. A lot of artists will rest on their laurels after a while, but you know, he stayed relevant, and even if it's not your cup of tea, he kind of helped not create but revolutionize reality TV with the Osbournes. I mean, everyone watched the Osbournes.
It did, yeah. And I think he was such a character in it. It gave him longevity in the mainstream, didn't it? Of course, made Sharon Osbourne a super famous person doing X Factor or whatever those programs are.
Bubbles? What bum would have been a prince in darkness, Sharon? What was that, Bubbles?
I remember that, yeah. I think it was on, like, what's that thing?
It's on Prime.
Prime, you just
I think it's on
really?
Prime or
wow.
Pluto. I think it's on both of those.
Wow. I mean, it's yeah, man, it went on for, like, his music legacy went on for years as well, didn't it? And I think the thing is, like you say, all the 80s stuff as well, all the 80s music he did after leaving Sabbath. You know, Fire in the Belly. There was a famous interview he did with Zane Lowe a little while ago, and he said, like, a band breakup is like a divorce. And Fire in the Belly, you know, can drive, you know, you're trying to outdo, because obviously Black Sabbath continued on, didn't they? Without him, different singers, Dio, etc. And then he went on with all his stuff in the 80s. But, like, arguably, when he was in America, he got even bigger than, to be honest, well, he did, didn't he? He got bigger than Sabbath in many ways. And, like, I guess the fire in the belly of how it was such a tumultuous ending of his time in Sabbath in 79 was, like, that probably drove him to say, well, stuff you guys, I will prove you wrong. Like, they sacked him, didn't they? And that, I'm sure a lot of us in the world have had that happen. Like, something's gone on, someone's left a project, someone's done something, you've been fired from a job or whatever it is, and the fire, you'll be like, right, I will show you. If you think that, and I think that was part of the drive. Of course, Sharon steered him through the 80s as well, but that drive to, like, show them, I'll show you, you know, and I think he did, but in a good way. It's great they all came back round and still went out and got back together and played, and, you know, all that good stuff, man. That was good as well. But yeah, it's wild, and seeing, like, that show only 18 days ago to now, I don't think many of us would have thought that would have happened watching that. Even, I mean, unless they pumped him full of God knows what to get him out there. Who knows? I mean, fair play to him for going to do it as well, man. Like, awesome. They got to do that as well. I think he really great, you know, in front of to get out there in front of people and say what he wanted to say as well, in between the songs.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was a powerful night. It was a real reminder of the importance of rock and metal in the world of music, because a lot of the time that's, you know, it's in terms of the mainstream, rock and metal is always on the outside and
Yeah.
whatnot, and sometimes you can think, oh, people don't listen to that anymore because they listen to trap beats or what, I don't know, whatever TikTok music is popular these days. But you then see an event like this, and there's so much love, not just in Villa Park, but all across the world. You know, just because it's not beaten on the door of the mainstream doesn't mean that it's not a huge, huge world still. And yeah, it was an iconic event, and for me personally, it was a real reminder, not just of my love of rock and metal music, which, you know, sometimes as you get older, if you're not always in that world,
Yeah.
it can sort of fall to the side a bit, and you know, you sort of think, oh, my time needs to be spent doing this and work and that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and you almost kind of forget about your love for it. But then when you're brought back into that world, it's like you're waking up for the first time.
Don't know if I've
Yeah,
ever left Tezz.
I know you've not left, but I mean, like, yeah.
I get what you mean, though, man. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I totally get it. So I know,
Yeah.
you know, and it's true. I mean, it's yeah, I get it. I mean, I get it just from performing for a few years recently with people who weren't my close knit rock family or connect with you right now, you know, on here and stuff like that. You know, you get it. I get it. You know, like doing something that wasn't true to me. You know, you think, oh, it's not. I'm not. So I get it. And when you see something and you get to be with your rock family, or even when we all were online together, you know, like watching that event and stuff was,
Yeah.
you know, you were the other side of halfway up the country from where I am. Another friend I've got called D, she's messaging me like, oh, did you see this? You know, we're all together.
Yeah.
You know, it's all a fraternity or a group, whatever the word would be. I don't know. You know, we are all together. It's a moment. That was a moment for all of us rock and metal fans, definitely. And it goes right through, like me phoning my dad up. You know, it totally does. No, my dad used to play Black Sabbath to piss my granddad off. I know he did. You know, he told me. My granddad used to hate it. My dad used to play it fully loud just to piss him off. You know, it's funny, man. It's the bindings of the world, movies, not movies, music. Well, movies are too, of course, but music and you know, it's yeah, I get it, man. It's funny when you like do a lot of looking into this stuff, and I never even realised. It's probably, I don't know if you know from doing Ministry of Horror, like where Black Sabbath used to rehearse. They'd look across. They used to rehearse opposite a theatre, and there's all these people queuing up to watch horror movies.
Oh no, I didn't know.
And Ozzy was like, hang on a minute, all these people are coming to the theatre to get scared. Why don't we play some music to scare them? They'll probably love it. And that was kind of the incarnation of it way back when. So it's quite interesting, isn't it? And he was in so many films and things like that, wasn't he? He did loads of movies. And WWE Hall of Famer as well, Tezz.
WWE Hall of Famer, yeah.
Back to the old days.
Yeah, he's in Little Nicky as well. I remember that.
Oh, he was, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was all probably after the Osbournes made him even more famous, wasn't it?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yeah, it's just a huge impact. And we got a few quotes from around the music world of people reacting to the death of Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, the one that jumped out to me, I mentioned on the show before, I'm a big Pearl Jam fan. Pearl Jam were one of the bands for me with Metallica that really kind of became core loves in my music world. But lead guitarist Mike McCready had written today, sad to hear Ozzy died today. When I was in high school, I discovered Sabbath. War Pigs was terrifying and mesmerizing at the same time. It was Ozzy's voice that took me away to a dark universe, a great escape. Then when the Blizzard of Oz record came out, I was instantly a fan. Randy Rhoads was an influence on me to play lead guitar. Luckily, I got to play on the song Immortal on the last record. Thanks for the music, Ozzy. It makes our journey in life better.
I think that's what you always hear as well with Ozzy as well. He was such a cool dude to everybody. So if you played music, he was just really cool dude to if you were in the support band or if you were, went in an audition for him, and that's important because there's so many dickheads. You meet a lot of dickheads in music,
Well, that's one of the things that I saw on the news this morning with Gene Simmons on BBC, where he'd mentioned when Kiss was starting out and Sabbath were starting to break into America. When he met Ozzy, he said it's such a Jekyll and Hyde because on stage he's this madman saying, "Let me flipping hear you," and screaming and what I don't know if this is swearing on the podcast or not.
We can swear.
Let me fucking hear you. But then off stage, he's just like, "Oh, how are you? Would you like a cup of tea? Would you like a biscuit?" And he talked to you like his next door neighbor because he was just so caring and down to earth. And apparently he's always been like that. And I suppose if you watch the Osbournes, which obviously it's produced for TV, but he does just come across incredibly genuine and down to earth. And he's not. He's not like those A-list celebrities where they're kind of up their own arse. He's always just come across, and I think that's also been part of the charm for a lot of people, not just the music, but also the personality. He just seems like someone that you'd like to have a cup of tea with and have a chat with, and
that's always good though, important. I think when you think you'd love to, I always have a weird thing like. People like because I've got my own gardening business. When I'm not out singing songs, I do gardening, and I always think with celebrity people, you think there's a thing when you do gardening. When I first started, when I was a young kiddie, my boss said to me, "If you get offered a cup of tea, always say yes, because they'll never offer you one if you say no." And there's a thing I always think, and then when you're at a job sometimes, and like you might have a customer and they're drinking a drink, and you're like. Bloody boiling hot. You're standing there just drinking. You won't get me a cup of tea or a drink or water or anything. You think, what a dick you are. And I always think that, like, when you see celebrity people, you think, would they get you a cup of tea if you're around their house gardening or laying some carpet or whatever you do? And I think Ozzy definitely would make you a cup of tea if you're around his house doing a bit of a gardening job for him.
Yeah, he just seems like that sort
Sharon,
of person.
I think she would. I think Sharon would.
I think she would, yeah. I mean, Sharon is one of those personalities where you sometimes hear of issues with other bands or her having fallings out with people and whatnot. But I think on one hand you could look at that as, oh, she's trouble, Ozzy's the good one. But I think also the flip side of that is she's probably just so protective of Ozzy. That every sort of decision like that has been in the interest of protecting him, protecting his his brand and whatnot. And I think I imagine she probably would. She'd probably be a bit more intimidating than Ozzy. But at the same point, I think they all would, to be honest.
Always make a tradesman a drink if they come around your house. You'll get a bit of better work. Always do. Always offer them a drink.
Oh yeah, every time we've had to have any sort of work done here, the first thing my fiance says to me if I'm the one that's at home dealing with it is just make sure you make them a tea or a coffee, get them a chocolate bar. And she will check like about an hour or so after she knows they've been. She'll be like, "Have you given them a drink yet?" Be like, "Yes, I've offered them a coffee. Yes."
I'm gonna tell as we're on this, I don't know how I could get to this, or maybe we would if we spoke a bit of Voodoo Vegas history. But I'm gonna tell you about a wild detour, little music story that doesn't tie into Ozzy, but it ties into people giving cups of tea, I think. Way back when I was gardening for someone, where I live on the south coast of England, it's quite an affluent place. There's lots of big mansions and rich people, footballers and all that sort of stuff, and pool. And there was a lady we used to go around gardening for, and there'd be two of us that would go. We'd do 4 hours each, and she would always make us a cup of tea. She'd make us a cup of tea, and she'd buy pastries from Tesco's, and then she'd end up. And then it got to the point where she'd order Domino's pizza while we were there. And at the end of the visit, so like 2 hours each, she'd give us a tenner each. So that's wicked, tenner each. That's so good. That's so good. And then we were going to her for years, and through the years, she went up to 20 quid each. And if 3 guys went, she'd give all 3 of us 20 quid. And then I think by the time I left, this is coming up to us recording our first record. She knew I did the band, and I think the tip she gave us, she would never say no. I think the story was that she came from working in a petrol station, and she met a rich husband from there, so she knew how all of us guys were, for want of a better term. But she had loads of money that he just give her to spend, so she just give it to all the guys that came around her house. And it got to 2012 when we were doing our first album, and we did a Pledge Music campaign, and we launched it on my birthday, and she knew it was my birthday. My birthday was the Wednesday, and we would go to her house on Thursday, and she gave us the pastries and pizza, whatever it was, halfway through the gardening time, and I took it back to her I remember you go back to give it to her through the kitchen window. Gave it to her, and she goes, oh, how was your birthday, Lawrence? And I was like, oh, it was really, really good, thank you. The band launched a crowdfunding campaign for our album, and we hit our target in 24 hours for our Rise of Jimmy Silver record. We did the first album we did. So we hit the target in 24 hours. And she was like, oh, what's that about then? I was like, people like pre-order the record, and then they get their name in the booklet, and all that sort of stuff. So I told her about it. Wasn't fishing for any money whatsoever, just telling her about it because she was making conversation. Gave her the plates back, walked back round to the front of the house. She came to the front of the house through the window, goes, Lawrence, if I gave you £1,000, would it help your album? And I was like, yeah, but you don't have to do that. And she was like,
yeah,
no, I will give you £1,000. Come around the house at the end of the work day. Just come and knock on the door, and I'll write you a check. And I thought, of course, I didn't say anything to anyone I was working with.
No.
And I went round her house at the end of the day. She wrote me a check for £1,000. And then I ended up leaving that job pretty quick. Not because of that, just because they wouldn't let me have the time off to record our album.
Oh.
And that's what made me get into being self-employed anyway. But yeah, wild. So that all stemmed from the sidebar of making tradesmen cups of tea, and Ozzy Osbourne would probably do it. And I think I ended up taking the album round to her house when it was done, and she invited Meryl and me to her Christmas party in this big posh Christmas hotel that year. Yeah, I've never seen her since. It's wild. I've never seen her. Like, it's wild.
Oh, that's amazing.
What a lovely lady, eh? Like, so. But yeah, I'm sure Ozzy would have made a cup of tea for you if you went round. I don't know if he'd give me £1,000 if I said I've got an album going.
No, maybe.
Probably tell you to fuck off.
You don't know. You don't know. Maybe.
You don't know, dude. This bloody gardeners come around here talking about rock music. Oh, I just want a break from it before we come and trim my marigolds.
Oh God.
Yeah, wild story. Sorry for the sidebar. I thought it was I thought we should. Oh, hang on. Just seeing if the recording's still going, Tezz. I don't know.
Oh.
So we were recording, Tezz. We were recording. Don't worry.
Good.
We checked it, podcast listeners behind the curtain. But yeah, man, wild times, and yeah, rest in peace, Ozzy. I think is play his music loud if you're gonna play some music this weekend. I asked my dad, and he was like, "I've been blasting it in the car." He went fishing today, and he said, "Have you played it at all?" So I guess I've been fishing, and then he said, on the way home, I'm just going to blast it really loud. So I bet loads of people did that today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I pretty much I went to the gym this morning, and I went straight onto Spotify and went on This Is Ozzy. So you got Ozzy's music and Sabbath's music. And yeah, it's good. It's good. And it's one of those things, again, where some of the songs I'd only ever actually heard covers of, not the originals, like Planet Caravan. Which isn't really gym music, but it's a very, very good song. And yeah, I think now is the time, really, especially if you're not familiar with Ozzy or Sabbath. It's probably a case of there'll be some songs that you hear that you then think, oh, I never knew.
Yeah,
I never knew that was him. Like, War Pigs gets covered all the time. NIB. Yeah, there's tons. There's tons. A huge impact on music.
All of us. I remember always going around my friend Richie's house. We'd go out drinking in Bournemouth and go back to his house after and watch live at the Budokan. So that would be like the live DVD. And playing it full blast for his 5.1 surround sound sphere. How the neighbours never complained was wild. I don't know. We would go around his house and play these, like we'd go around his house, have a drink into about 11 at night, and then we'd go into Bournemouth town and come back about 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning and blast like all these bloody DVDs on his 5.1 surround sound system. I don't know how. He lived in a flat, like an old converted house, and how the neighbours never complained. And Live at the Budokan was definitely one we played loads of. So I think I might go watch some of that in a bit, mate, actually, because that was one of them when he was in his prime. It's like 9 o'clock on the Wednesday night here. So if you're listening to this podcast, we're going to have this out on Thursday morning. But yeah, man, it's he's a legend. Cherish these legends, guys. There's not many of them. Well, there isn't many of them gone left, is there? And there's lots. Well, there's lots of rock gods still alive, but do you know what I mean? Let's just cherish them. And
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, support the artists that you love. I mean, I guess the famous example where you could say, okay, there has to be a time to call it quits would be either Vince Neil,
yes,
Motley Crue.
Yes.
It's not saying words anymore. They're just syllables. And I saw a video today actually of I think it's a recent show from Scorpions, German German metal band. I know that they've been around a long time. They are getting on in years. The singer, it was quite Joe Biden-esque.
Is it really?
Yeah. I'll see if I can find it on Instagram and forward it across. But yeah.
I know it's not. That's not good, is it? When I think sometimes maybe they're going out to get some beans, but I don't know. I mean, at least with Ozzy's one, that gave it all to charity, and that was awesome.
Exactly. And
tons of money.
It was awesome.
And it was what a great memory, man. What a great moment to be able to share that moment with all rock and metal fans around the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Where can everyone find you on the lines, Tezz?
So you can find me on the lines under Ministry of Horror, which is my weekly horror podcast. I'm really trying to build the TikTok at the moment. It's sort of
it's going well.
Had a sudden surge out of nowhere, but it's like with anything, ebbs and flows. One video's creeping up to almost 9,000 views. Another one I did like a day later's had 10. So
it's like the gigging days, like you do in Vegas. You go and play abroad, and you'd be like, "Wow, we played in front of 8,000 people," and you play in like Andover to 13 people. You're like, what the?
Yeah, exactly. You get the high, and then you get the okay. What have I done differently here? But no, it's it's the follower count has quadrupled in a week, which is awesome. So if you do have TikTok, Ministry of Horror, Instagram, all of the usual places, you'll find me there. Follow the channel.
Nice one, Tezz. Yeah, go follow this man. He's a good dude. Creates lots of good stuff. And you don't have to be a huge horror fan to even like listening to Tezz, because as you can hear, he's a quality dude, and it's a pleasure to do this podcast with him. If you want to come and check out all the Nothing But a Good Time tour dates, you can find it on nothingbutagoodtime.co.uk. We've also got a Facebook page, facebook.com, where everywhere's Nothing But a Good Time Rock on the information superhighway. You will find us. But we've also got a Facebook community where we can all connect and have little chats and post pictures. It's quite good. We're trying to build up a community. I've never done a community group page on the internet before, Tezz. We did Discord when we were doing the wrestling, weren't we? But I feel like the community group page is quite a good space to just chat and, especially like the Ozzy thing. I put it in there last night and everyone was sharing memories and things. I guess pages are a little bit more for content and gig posts and things, which of course you'll still post, but you can come and connect with us a bit more personally. Mel posted up a guitar today that Studio gave her, made for her from hand. So yeah, come and join our Facebook page, just at Nothing But a Good Time community. And check out all our tour dates. We're next playing August 9th at Lingfield Racecourse. It's a few weeks to our next gig. We'll be back next week with more Nothing But a Good Time. Thank you for all the listeners to the podcast. I think we've had the most listeners in a week. So thank you to everyone who's checked out the podcast. If you came back this week, we appreciate you guys coming to check it out. Give us 5 stars on all the podcast platforms. We'll
subscribe,
share, do all that good stuff. And thank you to everyone who's listening. Thank you, Tezz.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Rest in peace, Ozzy. Go and have a few JDs with Lemmy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, man. Right. See you guys later. See you on the flip-flop, guys. Goodbye.
Bye.